however, both sides know the game, and the alert enemy will not necessarily grasp at the shadow you have thrown. So you have to take the art of deception to a level higher, casting shadows within shadows, making it impossible for your enemies to distinguish between fact and fiction. You make everything so ambiguous and uncertain, spread so much fog, that even if you are suspected of deceit, it does not matter. The truth cannot be unraveled from the lies, and all their suspicion gives them is torment. Meanwhile, as they strain to figure out what you are up to, they waste valuable time and resources. During the World War II desert battles in North Africa, the English Lieutenant Dudley Clark ran a campaign to deceive the Germans. One of his tactics was to use props, dummy tanks and artillery, to make it impossible for the Germans to figure out the size and location of the English army. From high-flying reconnaissance aircraft, these dummy weapons would photograph like the real thing. A prop that worked particularly well was the fake airplane made of wood. Clark dotted bogus landing fields filled up with rows of these around the landscape. At one point, a worried officer told him that intelligence had been intercepted, revealing that the Germans had figured out a way to distinguish the fake planes from the real ones. They simply looked for the wooden struts holding up the wings of the dummy planes. Enlarged photos could reveal this. They would now have to stop using the dummies, said the officer. But Clark, one of the great geniuses of modern deception, had a better idea. He decided to put struts under the wings of real aircraft as well as phony ones. With the original deception, the Germans were confused, but could eventually uncover the truth. Now, however, Clark took the game to a higher level. The enemy could not distinguish the real from the fake in general, which was even more disconcerting. If you are trying to mislead your enemies, it is often better to concoct something ambiguous and hard to read, as opposed to an outright deception. That deception can be uncovered, and enemies can turn their discovery to their advantage, especially if you think they are still fooled and act under that belief. You are the one doubly deceived. By creating something that is simply ambiguous, though, by making everything blurry, there is no deception to uncover. They are simply lost in a mist of uncertainty where truth and falsehood, good and bad, all merge into one, and it is impossible to get one's bearings straight. Reversal. To be caught in a deception is dangerous. If you don't know that your cover is blown, now suddenly your enemies have more information than you do, and you become their tool. If the discovery of your deceit is public, on the other hand, your reputation takes a blow, or worse. The punishments for spying are severe. You must use deception with utmost caution then, employing the least amount of people as possible to avoid the inevitable leaks. You should always leave yourself an escape route, a cover story to protect you should you be exposed. Be careful not to fall in love with the power that deception brings. The use of it must always be subordinate to your overall strategy and kept under control. If you become known as a deceiver, try being straightforward and honest for a change. That will confuse people, because they won't know how to read you. Your honesty will become a higher form of deception. Here are further reflections on misperception strategies. By Winston Churchill. In wartime, truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies. From Masters of Deception, by David Muir. Dudley Clark was always clear, and a little later it will be shown to have been a pity that others were not equally so, that you can never by deception persuade an enemy of anything not according with his own expectations, which usually are not far removed from his hopes. It is only by using your knowledge of them that you are able to hypnotize him, not just into thinking, but doing what you want. From The Greco-Persian Wars, by Peter Greene. Themistocles therefore had two urgent and simultaneous problems to solve. He must take effective action, not only to block any projected withdrawal by the Peloponnesian contingents, but also to ensure that they fought where and when he planned that they should. And he must somehow tempt Xerxes into making the one move which might lead to a Greek victory, that is, ordering his fleet to attack in the Salamis Channel. The device Themistocles finally adopted, what Plutarch calls his celebrated trick with Sisinus, is one of the most enigmatic episodes in all Greek history. Evidence for it goes back as far as Aeschylus's Persians, performed only 8 years after Salamis. What seems to have happened was this. At some point during the long argument over final strategy, Themistocles, anticipating defeat, slipped away from the conference and sent for his children's tutor, the most faithful of his slaves, an Asiatic Greek named Sisinus. This man was given a carefully prepared message or letter to deliver to Xerxes and sent off across the straits in a small boat, probably just before dawn on the 19th of September. The substance of the message was as follows. Themistocles sent it under his own name as commander of the Athenian contingent. He had, he told Xerxes, changed sides and was now ardently desirous of a Persian victory. No real reason is given for this volte-face, though disgust at the attitude of the Peloponnesian contingents would provide a strong enough motive to carry conviction. The Greek allies were at each other's throats and would offer no serious opposition. On the contrary, you will see the pro-Persians amongst them fighting the rest. Furthermore, they were planning a general withdrawal from Salamis under cover of darkness, to be carried out the following night. If Xerxes struck at once, on the divide and rule principle, he could forestall such a move, attack them and destroy their naval power, while they are still disorganized and before they have joined forces with their land army. The conquests of the Peloponnese would then become a comparatively simple matter. On the other hand, if Xerxes allowed the various Greek contingents to slip through his fingers and disperse homewards, the war might drag on indefinitely, since he would have to deal with each separate city-state in turn. Sisinus's arguments impressed the Persian admirals, and they duly passed them on to the great king himself. Xerxes, we are told, believed the report because it was in itself plausible, and also because it was just what he wanted to hear. There was trouble brewing in Ionia and the empire, and the sooner this Greek expedition was wound up, the better. Themistocles, always a shrewd judge of human nature, knew very well that after so many days of delay and frustration, the great king would grasp at anything which seemed to offer a quick solution to his problem. From The Secrets of D-Day by Gilles Perrault. At the end of the war, Allied intelligence officers discovered in captured files of the German Secret Service the text of 250 messages received from agents and other sources before D-Day. Nearly all mentioned July and the Calais sector. One message alone gave the exact date and place of the invasion. It had come from a French colonel in Algiers. The Allies had discovered this officer was working for the Abwehr, and he was arrested and subsequently turned round. He too was used to mislead Berlin. Used and abused. The Germans were so often deceived by him that they ended by treating all his information as valueless. But they kept in contact, for it is always useful to know what the enemy wants you to believe. Allied intelligence, with great boldness and truly remarkable perversity, had the colonel announce that the invasion would take place on the coast of Normandy on the 5th, 6th, or 7th of June. For the Germans, his message was absolute proof that the invasion was to be on any day except the 5th, 6th, or 7th of June, and on any part of the coast except Normandy. From the Ramayana by Valmiki. Now Ravana said to himself, "These are all petty weapons. I should really get down to proper business." And he invoked the one called Maya, a weapon which created illusions and confused the enemy. With proper incantations and worship, he sent off this weapon, and it created an illusion of reviving all the armies and its leaders.